In a world that constantly shifts beneath our feet, where headlines change by the hour, and where technology, culture, and even relationships seem to evolve faster than we can process, there is one thing people crave more than almost anything else: certainty. Not the kind of certainty that promises everything will always go according to plan, because deep down we know that is impossible. Life is unpredictable by nature. The certainty people look for is different. It is the certainty of presence, the assurance that in the chaos, someone can stand still, calm, and grounded. That is why confidence holds such magnetic power. It isn't arrogance or bravado, it is the quiet, steady flame that doesn't flicker no matter how strong the wind blows. Confidence at its core is not about proving yourself to others, but about proving to yourself that you can weather whatever storm comes. People can feel this. They sense it in your body language, in the way you hold eye contact, in the way you speak without rushing. Arrogance shouts because it is fragile. Confidence doesn't need to. Arrogance pushes to be noticed. Confidence simply is, and that state of being becomes the most comforting signal in a world filled with noise and uncertainty. Imagine being around someone who panics every time circumstances change versus someone who remains composed. The one who stays steady becomes the anchor everyone gravitates toward. Because their calmness transmits safety, we often misunderstand certainty. We think it means control, having everything figured out, or knowing the answers. But real certainty doesn't come from predicting the future. It comes from trusting yourself to handle the future no matter what it brings. That is the brutal distinction. The world doesn't reward those who claim to control the uncontrollable. It rewards those who embody resilience. And when people feel your resilience, when they see that you are not easily shaken, they can't help but be drawn toward you. It feels like stability in a storm, and human beings are wired to move towards stability. Confidence also transforms the way others perceive time with you. When you are calm in uncertain situations, people feel that they don't have to rush, they don't have to perform, they don't have to be on edge. Your composure creates space for others to breathe. That space is rare in a society of constant pressure, and it becomes irresistible. People associate your presence with relief, and that association is powerful. You become not just another face in the crowd, but a refuge from the chaos. And the truth is, we all long for someone who makes us feel safer simply by being there. The subtlety of confidence is that it doesn't demand. It doesn't plead for attention, and it doesn't compete for validation. Arrogance feeds on external approval, but confidence comes from an internal reservoir that cannot be taken away. And that difference shows. People naturally gravitate toward those who do not seem dependent on their approval, because it suggests that you are rooted in something deeper than opinion. That rootedness creates certainty, and certainty creates attraction. It's a loop that begins and ends with your relationship to yourself in moments of unpredictability. Confidence is not about making everything perfect, but about saying without words, "I will not collapse under pressure." That silent promise is worth more than any clever remark, any outward display, any attempt at showing off. It is the calm presence that signals stability when everything else feels uncertain. And it is that stability that people crave most in the chaos of life. The brutal truth that most people struggle to accept is that neediness repels. It doesn't matter how good looking, wealthy, or accomplished you are. When your energy carries desperation, people feel it instantly, and instead of drawing them closer, it pushes them away. Neediness is heavy, it clings. It creates pressure in every interaction, because it signals that you are not enough without external validation. The paradox is that the harder you try to get someone's approval, the less likely you are to receive it, because approval cannot be begged for, it can only be earned through self-assurance. Desperation drains energy not only from you, but from those around you. Think about the last time you were with someone who seemed to want something from you constantly. Your attention, your validation, your reassurance. You probably felt exhausted after only a short while, because carrying someone else's insecurity is a burden. No one enjoys being trapped in that dynamic. People want to be around those who energize them, not those who drain them. That is why independence is so attractive. Independence radiates abundance, a sense that you already have enough within yourself. And when you carry that truth, you stop suffocating others with your need for them to complete you. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean you reject connection or that you don't need people at all. It means you don't rely on others for your sense of worth. You enter relationships, friendships, and interactions as a whole person, not as someone seeking to be patched up. That wholeness is magnetic. When you bring fullness instead of emptiness, people want to be near you because they feel enriched, not depleted. And when people feel enriched in your presence, they naturally want to stay connected. There's a reason why independence reads as confidence. A person who does not beg for attention or chase after approval communicates through their actions that they have options, that their life is already meaningful, and that they are not defined by anyone else's response. That sense of inner abundance is intoxicating. It creates a pull that no line, no charm, no effortful performance could ever achieve. People sense that you are choosing them, not needing them. That choice is flattering, while neediness is suffocating. Desperation creates scarcity. It tells the world that your happiness is limited, conditional, dependent on external factors. Independence, on the other hand, broadcasts abundance. It says, I am fulfilled as I am, and if you join me, it is to share in the overflow. That mindset shifts every dynamic. Instead of chasing, you invite. Instead of clinging, you allow. Instead of draining, you give. And that reversal is the essence of attraction. The reason so many fail to grasp this truth is because they confuse effort with value. They think that the more they do, the more they prove, the more they cling, the more they will be appreciated. But effort rooted in desperation is transparent. It's not generosity, it's bargaining. It's a silent plea that says, please keep me. People instinctively recoil from that energy because it feels like a trap. Independence, however, is effort without attachment. It's giving because you want to, not because you're afraid of losing. That is the kind of energy that doesn't repel. It attracts effortlessly. When you walk into a room self-sufficient, carrying an energy of abundance, people notice. They may not always be able to explain why, but they feel it. They feel lighter around you because you are not pulling from them to feel whole. Instead, you stand whole already. And in a world where so many are running on empty, wholeness is irresistible. That is the brutal truth. Neediness drains and dependence energizes. And when you embody the latter, you stop chasing connection and start magnetizing it without force. Irresistibility is not found in how well you perform, how polished your words are, or how impressive your gestures appear on the surface. True magnetism comes from something far deeper, something that cannot be faked or rehearsed. It is rooted in purpose. When a person lives with a clear mission, when their actions align with a bigger why, they naturally draw others toward them without needing to put on a show. Performance might capture attention for a moment, but purpose sustains attraction for a lifetime. People can sense purpose. They feel it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you make decisions, in the way you treat others. Someone who has direction radiates a different energy than someone who is drifting. The drifter may perform well, may even look impressive on the outside, but something always feels missing because their energy lacks depth. Purpose adds gravity. It grounds you, and when you are grounded, others feel more secure around you. That sense of security, of being near someone who knows where they're going, is profoundly attractive. Performance is exhausting because it constantly seeks validation. It depends on applause, approval, and recognition. And the moment the audience stops clapping, the performer feels empty. Purpose is different. Purpose is internal. It doesn't depend on external reactions. A man living by purpose doesn't need to prove his worth in every interaction. His life already testifies to his values, his discipline, his vision. That quiet certainty is what draws people closer because it signals strength that does not waver when circumstances change. There's also a freedom that comes with purpose. When you know what you stand for and what you're building, you stop chasing every distraction, every compliment, every opportunity to impress. You no longer perform to gain approval, you act to fulfill your mission. That single-mindedness makes you rare, and rarity by nature is attractive. People want to be near those who seem to know something others don't, who carry an unshakable clarity in a world full of confusion. Living with purpose also changes the way you connect with others. Instead of asking, what can I get from this person? Your presence communicates, this is where I'm going. Do you want to walk with me? That energy is inviting, not demanding. It doesn't cling, it doesn't beg, it doesn't perform. It allows others to choose, and in that freedom, people feel valued. They don't feel trapped in your neediness, they feel inspired by your direction. Inspiration is one of the most powerful forms of attraction because it reaches beyond appearance and taps into aspiration. People want to be part of something bigger, and when you live for more than yourself, you give them that chance. Purpose also fuels consistency. Performance may sparkle for a while, but it burns out quickly because it relies on effort without substance. Purpose sustains over the long term. It makes you reliable, predictable in the best way. Others know that you won't collapse when life gets hard because you are anchored to something beyond comfort or approval. That reliability is rare and rarity is magnetic. In a world of quick fixes and shallow displays, depth stands out. When you live with purpose, even your silence speaks. You don't need to dominate conversations or prove your worth with stories. People sense the weight of your mission in the way you listen, in the way you pause before responding, in the way you hold yourself steady. That kind of presence cannot be imitated by performance, no matter how polished. It is authenticity born from alignment, and authenticity is the foundation of irresistibility. This is why those who chase approval often struggle, while those who chase purpose thrive. Approval fades, applause ends, but a mission-driven life continues to shine. And it is that steady, purposeful light that people are instinctively drawn toward, because it offers direction in a world that often feels lost. Irresistibility is never about the show you put on, it is about the mission you live for. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of communication, yet it speaks louder than any string of carefully chosen words. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill the empty spaces in conversation, fearing that a pause might signal disinterest, awkwardness, or weakness. But the truth is the opposite. The ability to sit comfortably in silence conveys a deep strength, a calm presence that does not rely on constant noise to feel secure. When someone can rest in quiet without scrambling to fill the void, it tells the world that they are grounded, patient, and unshaken. In relationships, in leadership, and in everyday interactions, silence has power because it allows others to feel the weight of what was just said, or the weight of what remains unsaid. It creates space for meaning to settle. Words often lose impact when they tumble too quickly one after the other, but when paired with pauses, they gain gravity. Silence gives depth to speech in the same way stillness gives depth to movement. It is the contrast that makes communication magnetic. Many confuse silence with weakness or passivity, but silence, when intentional, is one of the most commanding forces in human connection. Think about those who lead effortlessly. They don't shout to prove authority. They don't rush to dominate every discussion. They allow silence to work for them. They let others speak and reveal themselves, and by simply holding space without interrupting, they project confidence. It shows they are not desperate for attention, not anxious to prove their worth. Their silence is not absence, it is presence amplified. Being comfortable with silence also signals emotional stability. When someone can sit quietly without fidgeting, without forcing conversation, it shows they are not ruled by insecurity. Most people break silence because they fear judgment, afraid that others might think less of them if they are not constantly entertaining. But the person who is at ease with pauses communicates, even without words, "I do not need to perform for you. I am enough as I am." That is irresistible because it shows freedom from the need for validation. Silence is also a mirror. When you hold back from speaking, the other person often fills the space by revealing more of themselves. They share more, explain more, and sometimes confess more because your silence gives them permission. This not only deepens connection, but also gives you insight into their world. Those who master silence do not just speak less, they understand more. And understanding creates influence in ways words never could. There is also an elegance in not rushing to respond. In a culture obsessed with fast replies and constant chatter, the pause becomes rare and rarity is magnetic. When you pause before answering, it shows thoughtfulness. It communicates that you are not reacting from impulse, but responding with intention. That small difference builds respect because it shows discipline and control. People are drawn to those who do not let their emotions dictate every reaction, but instead allow silence to shape clarity. Even in attraction, silence plays a role. A quiet glance, an unhurried pause, or the restraint to not say everything at once often stirs curiosity more than a flood of words ever could. Mystery thrives in silence. It leaves space for imagination, and imagination is often more powerful than certainty. By not revealing everything, by not chasing every moment with chatter, you invite others to lean in, to wonder, to invest their own energy into the connection. The truth is that silence is not empty. It is full of presence, full of meaning, full of strength. The person who can embrace it does not fear being overlooked, because their presence already carries weight without constant reinforcement. And in a world drowning in noise, silence stands out as the ultimate signal of power, composure, and confidence. Respect carries a weight that charm can never replicate. Charm may light up a room for a moment, but it is fleeting, like fireworks that dazzle the sky and disappear just as quickly. Respect, on the other hand, is like the steady glow of a flame that endures. Genuine admiration and dignity have the power to outlast any clever line, witty remark, or surface-level display of charisma. Because they touch something deeper than entertainment, they touch the core of human worth. Charm often works in the short term because it entertains, it flatters, and it excites. People enjoy being around someone who knows how to make them laugh, who knows how to hold attention with ease. But charm without respect eventually reveals its emptiness. When the charm is gone, when the cleverness wears thin, what remains? If there is no respect beneath the performance, there is nothing to sustain the bond. People may remember how you made them laugh, but they will never forget how you made them feel about themselves. And respect is the foundation of that feeling. Respect is magnetic because it communicates value. When you treat someone with dignity, you tell them through your actions that they matter, that they are worthy of care, that they are seen not as an object, but as a human being. This is far more powerful than charm, because while charm entertains the surface, respect feeds the soul. People crave to be recognized beyond appearances, beyond roles, beyond fleeting impressions. When you offer that recognition, it leaves a lasting imprint. The truth is that charm often seeks something in return: attention, approval, or validation. Respect gives without needing to take. It comes from a place of fullness rather than hunger, from a sense of wholeness rather than performance. That is why respect is rare and why it stands out so profoundly when encountered. A person who respects others is not trying to manipulate or impress. They are simply living with integrity. And integrity, over time, becomes irresistible. Respect also builds trust in ways charm never can. Trust is not earned by witty remarks or momentary attraction. It is earned through consistent treatment of others with dignity. When people know they can rely on you to honor them, to value their boundaries, to listen without judgment, you become someone they want to be around. You become not just entertaining, but safe. And safety is deeply attractive in a world where people constantly feel judged, used, or dismissed. Another reason respect is more magnetic than charm is its durability. Charm fades in difficult times. When challenges arise, clever lines hold no weight, but respect endures under pressure. Even in conflict, when voices rise and disagreements emerge, respect prevents the bond from breaking. It allows space for different views without tearing down the individual. People never forget when they are treated with respect in moments of vulnerability. That memory lasts far longer than the momentary thrill of charm. Respect also elevates both parties. When you give respect, you also elevate yourself. You signal to the world that you hold yourself to a higher standard, that you do not need to belittle, manipulate, or degrade others to gain connection. That self-control and maturity reflects strength. People admire those who make others feel valued because it requires confidence, patience, and depth. Charm may impress, but respect inspires. And inspiration is what makes someone unforgettable. Charm has its place. It can break the ice, make interactions lighter, and open doors. But it cannot hold those doors open forever. Respect is what keeps them from closing. The person who leads with charm may capture attention quickly, but the person who leads with respect will hold attention for a lifetime. Genuine admiration and dignity create bonds that time cannot erode, because they are rooted in truth rather than performance. And in the end, what truly magnetizes people is not how cleverly you spoke, but how deeply you honored who they are. Leadership is often misunderstood as the loudest voice in the room, the person with the most authority, or the one who issues the most commands. But true leadership is something far more subtle, almost invisible. It does not rely on force, persuasion, or constant effort to convince others to follow. Instead, it is closer to seduction, a quiet magnetism that draws people in without a single word needing to be spoken. True leaders inspire desire not by trying harder, but by embodying a presence that others naturally want to be near. Presence is the core of this kind of leadership. Presence is not about taking up space with volume or aggression. It is about filling space with calm, grounded energy. People sense when someone is centered, when they do not waver under pressure, when they carry themselves with a quiet certainty. That stability is rare and rarity is magnetic. In a world filled with noise and insecurity, the person who does not need to shout or prove himself commands attention simply by existing. His energy says, I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and I do not need to chase. This is why leadership feels like seduction. Seduction is not about begging for attention. It is about creating an atmosphere that others want to step into. Leaders do the same. They don't drag people forward with force. They move in such a way that others choose to follow. They embody qualities, vision, composure, respect, clarity, that stir something within those around them. People see them and feel inspired to rise to a higher standard, not because they were told to, but because they want to. That voluntary pull is the essence of both seduction and leadership. What makes this presence so irresistible is that it does not seek. True leaders are not needy. They are not desperate for followers' approval or applause. Their mission comes first. They live with a clear sense of purpose, and whether others join them or not, they continue. That independence creates gravity. People are drawn to those who do not depend on being chosen. They want to be part of something bigger, and the leader's purpose gives them that opportunity. Another quality that makes leadership seductive is restraint. Just as in attraction, where leaving some mystery invites curiosity, in leadership, holding back from over-explaining or overselling creates respect. When someone is confident enough to let their actions speak louder than their words, they communicate strength. They do not rush to fill silence. They do not chase to convince. They do not scramble to prove. Their restraint says, I trust myself, and I trust that you will see it in time. That patience, that quiet confidence is deeply magnetic. True leaders also understand that influence comes not from demanding obedience, but from awakening aspiration. They don't say, follow me because I'm in charge. They communicate through presence and example. This is where I'm going. You're welcome to join me. That invitation is far more compelling than command. It gives others freedom to choose, and when people choose freely, their commitment is stronger. Seduction works the same way. It never forces, it invites. Leadership that seduces does not manipulate. It creates a vision so strong, so alive, that people cannot help but want to be part of it. What ultimately separates this form of leadership from superficial authority is authenticity. You cannot fake presence. You cannot imitate calmness under pressure. You cannot pretend to have a purpose for long if it isn't real. People can sense truth, and they are drawn to it. The leader who embodies authenticity doesn't need words to convince others. They become living proof of what they believe in. That embodiment is far more powerful than speeches or slogans, because it is consistent and undeniable. Leadership, then, is seduction without words. It is the art of inspiring desire not through force, charm, or constant persuasion, but through the quiet gravity of presence. The leader who walks with clarity, lives with purpose, and carries calm certainty will always be followed, not because they ask, but because others cannot resist moving closer to the strength they feel in their presence.